Welcome back to the IBFP. Here's your host, Boxing Nuke.
Welcome back, fight fans. Welcome back. Let's just get into it. The Charlo brothers are hype. Yes, that's right. The Charlo brothers are hype. I've been getting a lot of contacts via social media, the comment section, talking about the Charlo brothers are feared. The Charlo brothers are being ducked by everyone from Canelo to Islandi Lara to Jerry Swift Hurd. These guys are the baddest guys in boxing, Lions only, all that bullshit. Let's just break down what these guys really are and how good they really are. Let's start with Jermall Charlo, the bigger brother, at 160 pounds. He's 27-0 with 21 knockouts. His biggest fight to date came against an Austin Trout who was past his prime. He beat him in a 12-round unanimous decision in 2016. At that time, Austin Trout had already had 2 defeats. So at this point, yes, you did beat him in a unanimous decision, but Austin Trout is not an A-level fighter. He's not an elite level fighter. He's never been an elite level fighter. He's been a very good fighter at times, but the peak of his career was when he fought Canelo Alvarez and Miguel Cotto. When he fought Jermall Charlo, he was already past that stage. He had already declined, and he already had 2 losses on his resume. He was a beaten boxer who had a blueprint to losing, basically. He's not an elite level fighter. He was never a top tier fighter. And since he beat Austin Trout and was unable to stop him, by the way, Jerry Swift Hurd stopped him. He beat a prospect in Julian J. Rock Williams. He beat a tomato can in Jorge Sebastian Highland. And he beat another tomato can in Hugo Centeno Jr. Hugo Centeno Jr., who had already been knocked out before, and basically Jermall Charlo stopped him in the second round. Why are you touting this guy as being the guy that Canelo Alvarez would be ducking? What the fuck are you talking about? Why would Canelo duck this guy? This guy is unproven, has never fought elite level competition, has never shown any elite head movement or boxing skills or ability, and he doesn't even utilize his jab properly. Come on. Let's not overrate these guys because you're fanboys. This is the difference between the IBFP and all these fanboy channels out here. We give you the honest truth. We don't allow biases or personal feelings to interject in what the truth is. And the truth is, Jermall Charlo is overhyped. This guy is not who you think he is. He's not that great. He's a good prospect, and he could potentially be a good or elite fighter. Possibly, but he has to beat someone to prove it. No one like Canelo or Triple G will duck Jermall Charlo, period, because he's not that important. He's not a vicious guy. He's not a boogeyman. You couldn't stop Austin Trout. That's enough said. You stopped a guy in Hugo the Boss Centeno Jr. that already been stopped. Who have you fought? When Daniel Jacobs called him out, Jermall Charlo was silent. Who have you fought? Yes, he does have a knockout, pedigree. He is about 6 feet to 6'1". He's a very big middleweight. And he's 28 years old, entering his prime. So he has some very good features about him. But he's not enough to be a boogeyman, to be feared, or to be ducked by any of the top guys at 160 pounds, period. He's overhyped. And the problem with this is that if Canelo gets in a ring, whether he knocks him out or beats him badly over 12 rounds, then at that point, everyone's going to say, well, something, there's going to be an excuse. They're going to finally say, well, I guess he was hype. I guess we put him up there too fast. I guess he took these fights. We should have built him up longer. It's going to be some fucking excuse. When the truth is, the guy's being overhyped. Now, Jermall Charlo could be the real deal. He could be a top-level fighter, and he could be one of the best prospects we've seen in the last 10 years. But we don't know that because he hasn't fought any elite-level competition. He hasn't stepped up in competition, and every opportunity that he has stepped up to a slightly better opposition in competition, such as an Austin Trout, who's basically a gatekeeper, a B-level fighter at this point in his career. He couldn't get him out of there. He didn't show any impressive boxing ability, and basically it was just a typical unanimous decision. The better he goes up in competition, which was the very best against Austin Trout, he showed that he was nothing special. Nothing special. Yeah, you did beat him, but he's a B-level fighter. Guy past his prime. never been an elite level fighter. So let's just keep that in perspective about who the fuck Jermall Charlo is. We're not into fanboying. We're into being honest and keeping it real about these guys. Let's dig into Jermall Charlo. Jermall Charlo is 31-0 with 15 knockouts, 31 fights. God damn, 31 fights. And who the fuck have you fought? The best name on his resume is also Austin Trout. He beat him with a majority decision victory over 12 rounds. Austin Trout at this time when he fought him most recently had 4 defeats. 4 defeats. And he was unable to stop it. And I remember in that fight in particular when he went to his corner at some point and he talked to Derek James and he basically explained to him, hey, you know, I'm trying to get him out of there, but, you know, I don't want to look bad doing it. His whole fear in the fight was looking fucking bad. He wasn't trying to learn. He wasn't trying to get better. His fear was looking bad. He was swinging wild and missing. Austin Trout still had enough veteran savvy left in him to make him look bad and take him the fucking distance. That's fucking pathetic. Because at the end of the day, I think that, you know, Jermall Charlo is a decent fighter as well. And he's a decent prospect, but why are you still a prospect at 31 fucking fights? You have a lot of fucking fights, and you're just now stepping up in competition. He's 28 years old. He's 5'11". He's a big 154 pounder, and yet you couldn't get Austin Trout out of there. And it's not because these guys don't have the power to do it. It's because they don't have the ring IQ, the intelligence. They don't have the boxing ability. And that gives me no doubt that a guy like Canelo Alvarez would thoroughly outbox Jermall Charlo, because Jermall Charlo didn't even have the boxing ability to put his punches together to stop an Austin Trout. That's the difference. You know, you see a Jermall Charlo didn't have the boxing ability, damn sure didn't have the boxing ability to stop an Austin Trout, to put his punches together to stop him. He stopped an Erickson Lubin in the first round, another boxing prospect. He stopped Charles Hatley in the 6th round. Who? Exactly. Then before that, he stopped John Jackson. This guy is stopping guys that no one's heard of, or that's basically C-level fighters. The best name on his resume may be Avanis Martirosyan, but he didn't stop him. Triple G did, and he stopped him, Jermall Charlo, in the 10th round. Let's be honest with ourselves. Jermall Charlo's a good fighter. Jermall Charlo's a good fighter. But these guys have done shit to prove that they're elite level fighters, that anyone would duck them. I believe Erislandy Lara would thoroughly outbox Jermall Charlo. I believe, you know, if we're going to be honest, I believe Jared Swift-Hurd has a good chance of possibly even stopping Jermall Charlo. Both of those guys are lackluster on defense, so that's actually a 50-50 fight. But when you go to a pure boxer against either one of these guys, elite level opposition, I don't feel like anyone has anything to fear from these guys. I don't like the fact that all these fanboys out here are constantly saying, hey, these guys are being ducked, these guys are being, you know, the truth. Who have they fought? Name one elite level fighter that either of these guys have ever fought. I thought so. Once again, it's the IBFP. Please share, like, and you must absolutely fucking subscribe.